Hey, so as we emerge from this COVID-19 pandemic slash lockdown, I think it's important to see what lessons can be learned because we will face pandemics again. We have before, there's no avoiding them. Here's the lesson, the first lesson we can learn. What do we know at this point about COVID-19? Here are some facts. These are the ages of the deaths. You can see that only 4.5% of people who died were under 45. Share of deaths, 18 to 45 is 4.5%. Under 18 is negligible. Remember that number, 4.5% of those under 45 have died. 72% of the deaths have been of those aged 65 or older. Keep those figures in mind. 70% of those aged 65 or older versus 4.5% for those less than 45 years old. What is the distribution of age in the US? You may find this informative. This is from a 2010 census. I don't think it's accurate. It's probably representative though. And if you look under 2010, you can see the number of people under 18 was 24% and 18 to 44 was 36%, which means that 60% of the population was under 45 years old. And if you look at 65 years and older, only 13% of the population. So 60% of the population under 45, 13% 65 and older. How does that compare to the risk of death? 4.5% under 45, over 65%, over 65 years old, 72%. We've shut down the country. We've shut down the country in totality to protect 13% of the population, and at the same time, 60% of the population has been forced to deal with the consequence. That's not really a representative of a democratic kind of outcome. The lesson to be learned here is clear. The facts have changed. The despair and harm being caused to younger people by being forced to stay indoors is incalculable. I'm sure that there are deaths, depression. A lot of these jobs are not going to come back. It's hard to measure what you're not measuring. Yes, we can look at restaurant closings, but what about the family at home who all of a sudden have been thrust out of their middle class existence, don't know how they're going to keep the house or the lights on or the kids fed? The facts seem clear to me. We cannot protect 13% of the population by asking for tremendous sacrifice from 60%. The vulnerable among us should be quarantined. Agreed. There's going to be more deaths as we emerge from lockdown, as the elderly who've avoided infection so far become infected. It's going to be virtually impossible to avoid infection for the elderly unless they sit behind, glass walls like a prison to greet their visitors. I don't know if they want to make that choice or not. But it seems crazy now that we have this data to realize the sacrifice that's being asked of the 60% to protect the 13%. Quarantines normally keep the sick and vulnerable quarantined, not the healthy. We've done this completely backwards. We need to quarantine those who are elderly, those who are ill. They are still in danger of dying if they haven't contracted this illness. But it's time to stop punishing the 60% who, even if they get sick, have a really low rate of mortality. We need to have some sense of balance of what is important. And power grabs by governors from, for example, Michigan, or blaming Democrats or blaming Republicans or blaming hospital systems. I don't think that anybody is blameless, and there will be plenty of blame to be shared. But at this point, we need to focus on what is the best thing going forward, not on what action will hurt this political candidate or the other. Please, let's all grow up and wake up.